Even though you drain the transmission already while disconnecting the transmission fluid lines, some transmission fluid still can be inside of them. So position the drain pan underneath, spray them with D40 for better removal, and using the pliers release the clamp and disconnect them. And of course, while it was disconnected, some transmission fluid is dripping from this transmission cooler lines. I decided to keep this one inside of the transmission and disconnect it from here, and the second one is hard to access. That's why I disconnected from the top. So basically you will leave the hoses on the transmission itself, but they will be disconnected from the cooler. So basically, as you can see, this one is disconnected, and this one, which goes from transmission to the cooler, will disconnect it there. Using the pliers, position the clamp here, spray with D40 and start pushing it away from the line. I was unable to do it from this point for the second line. Even when I remove the clamp and apply D40, still no luck. That's why I decided to remove it from the bottom, from here. Right now transmission is disconnected. The first point disconnected from here, and the second from here. Make sure that you drain all the liquid. Position the drain pan underneath. If you don't want any spills in your garage. After making some review, I found out that without removing this transmission mount, you cannot remove one of the bolts which is mounting transmission to the engine. That's why you have to remove those 4 bolts, or you have to remove those 2 bolts on top. Are very easy to access using the 14mm key, but one in the bottom not that easy. That's why it's better firstly to remove this 17mm huge bolt, and this bracket will spin. Then you will be able to hold it with your hands and remove it counterclockwise. I decided to do it from the bottom using the 18-inch brake bar, because 25-inch doesn't fit there, and doing it counterclockwise like this, so I have to push it up. Pretty stubborn, just take your time. If cannot do it like this, use impact. There is some success using this 18-inch brake bar and 17mm socket. While I'm start spinning it counterclockwise, the lock start moving little by little. On top I don't have enough space. It's better to do it from the bottom. Suddenly I heard the crack. When I did hear the crack, it means that this lock finally reached an object. And when he reaches an object, he starts spinning and removing himself. Listen to this. You see, little by little, I'm removing it counterclockwise. It's already loose. When it's loose, just use a regular large wrench. It's kinda loose, so just take your time on this step, little by little. Now I am even able to use my hands to unspin it counterclockwise. It's very loose. Just simple as this. It's successfully removed, and this is the lock nut. So when you do in control clockwise, as soon as this lock nut will reach this mount itself, it will crack, and when it will crack, you will be able to get it loosen, and then just using your fingers you can successfully remove this mount. When the mount is removed, you can easily access those 4 bolts and remove the transmission mount. It could be funny, but while I was trying to remove those 14mm bolts, 2 on top are very loose, but those 2 in the bottom are pretty stubborn. While I was trying to use this large ratchet with 14mm socket on it, there is no luck, not enough torque. That's why to remove it I am using this 25-inch brake bar. Done. Then when you loosen them, use a ratchet completely to remove those bolts. Small ratchet fits here perfectly. Then use your fingers. One bolt removed. Little by little. Transmission mount is removed. The hardest part, of course, was to make it crack. Just do it control clockwise, and as I mentioned before, when I was doing it on top, it was not enough space with 25-inch brake bar and with 18-inch brake bar, which is smaller. When I was in the bottom, the same, but 18mm with this 18-inch brake bar with 17mm socket successfully crack this bolt. Then I use a ratchet to remove it. Just make sure that you crack it before, it's like a lock. The reason why this mount was removed is to access this transmission mounting bolt. He is hidden by this mount. Next step on your way to the transmission removal on this Mazda, you have to remove this exhaust manifold, because the starter itself located just right under it. You need to remove the starter, because if you want to remove these 4 bolts which is attaching the transmission to the flywheel, you need firstly remove the starter. So start removing this exhaust manifold. As I see so far, exhaust manifold is mounted on 3 or 4 bolts. The size of these bolts is 12mm, just using the medium ratchet with a 12mm socket on it and removing these bolts control clockwise. This is the first bolt, and the second one. The first 12mm removed, the second one. First one was right there. The second one is there. Exactly like the first one, the second one was a bolt. It's not a 12mm nut, it's a 12mm bolt. That's why you can see the hole. Not this one, just a hole. The third one is located there. The third one is removed. We'll just leave him here temporarily, and the last one is located from the other side. Removing him right now. He's like kinda hidden under the hoses.